Ladies and gentlemen, it's Brian and Michael from IGN Now. Now, we knew the Nintendo Switch was successful, but we didn't know until just recently just how crazy successful it is. This is one of the biggest success stories in Nintendo history. So, Swain, let's talk about it, and then let's get into whether or not we actually do need a Nintendo Switch Pro, because I'm going to say we don't.
All right, if we must do the math first, let's get into the numbers. Yeah.
Let's get into the numbers. Okay, so the Nintendo Switch has officially sold just under 80 million units since launch. That means it just outsold the Nintendo 3DS. It's outsold the NES, SNES, and then GameCube and N64. And it's about a month or two away from outselling the PSP, which is kind of crazy. I was not expecting that. And also a few million away from the PS3 and the Xbox 360, and about 20 million away from the Nintendo Wii, which I feel like in the moment of Nintendo Wii, it felt like one of the most successful products in the history of products, right? Like the fact
it captured the interest with the bowling, just like with the new Animal Crossing, it had several moments where it captured all of pop culture. Like if you're young enough that you weren't cognizant through the Wii phase. Also, I think you're comparing it immediately to the Wii U because they're adjacent and it comes out looking good in that. What I wonder is the actual classic thick Game Boy was not mentioned in that list. And I wonder, does that mean it still stands, or is it just so old that it's not worth mentioning?
No. It definitely still stands, and
that's amazing to me because that literally changed everything and created the handheld market. So I'm glad that score is intact.
No, that was the one where, to me, the measure of success is when you see like business guys on an airplane with it. You're like, oh, this is broken through like guys like us who wear, sweatpants every day. And then goes right
this
to
is Da Vinci Code now.
Yeah.
Everyone, just get it installed.
But it is actually within reach of the original Game Boy, so it'll get there. As for the Wii U, I would say the Nintendo Switch would not be where it is without the Wii U. First of all, coming out and sort of like hobbling to I guess you want to call that a finish line. It's unceremonious death. It not only gave the Nintendo Switch a lot of sort of unrefined ideas of how to merge the handheld and console lineage, but also gave it some of its best-selling games, which we'll get into right now. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, a Wii U port, has sold 34 million copies on Nintendo Switch, which is just like, are they ever going to make a sequel to this game? Do they even need to? Animal Crossing New Horizons is just over 31 million units. That game came out when quarantine started. That's how long this last year has been, first of all. But also,
Eston's baby was just a little dot, and now it's a full human being. That's roughly the same length. Yeah.
Which is, it's just crazy. Pokemon Sword and Shield are the best-selling Pokemon games since Silver and Gold. Pikmin 3 sold just under 2 million, making it the best-selling Pikmin game ever. I love that game. I wish more of you played it. Please do. Smash Brothers Ultimate's at 23 million. Breath of the Wild's at 21 million. I think they have something like 29 titles that have all sold a million or more, 20 of which are published by Nintendo, which begs the ultimate question. Nintendo Switch is doing amazing. The Switch Lite's even doing well. The Switch Lite has outsold the Wii U. This little thing has now, and the games are doing great. It doesn't seem like anybody's vision is, necessarily compromised. Swaim, why would we even need a Switch Pro right now? Why would Nintendo even want to put that out in the market?
Now you threw out the word ultimate, and I kind of like a Switch Ultimate Edition a little better. But yes, in the colloquialism of the gamer, a Pro model. A lot of people have been wanting it, myself included. And Brian, I still want it. I got to be honest. Can we see your Switch again? I do like you went with the black paddles, and it looked a little, that's mature, it's adults. I enjoy that. So there are a lot of, you've got both. Great. Your inner child still lives. There's a lot of cosmetic options, but in every case, you eventually deal with Joy-Con drift, which has been a huge problem. Now, this is not my only reasoning, but a big reason is it would be a chance to, at the hardware level, deal with Joy-Con drift once and for all. Just get that black mark like off the record. I would appreciate a sturdier, more robust type of physical body on the Switch. Maybe that's because I'm a giant adult man still playing the Switch with my troglodyte hands. Maybe it's colored by the fact that I lent my Switch to some children and they immediately broke it. And I was like, an unbreakable one of these would be very useful for me. Furthermore, we talked about, and I just want to highlight even more, some of the porting success the Switch has had, and that's something that Nintendo has engaged in and explored, it seems to me, a little more robustly this generation. Like they've dipped their toe in the water of, hey, Witcher 3 can be on the Switch. You can stream Hitman 3. Now, by all accounts, streaming Hitman 3 on your Switch doesn't work yet. Like it's a technical nightmare, or delightful if you enjoy glitches. If you heard Sam on GameScoop, he had a great time wandering off cliffs. But I think the Switch Pro would also give us a chance. Like, I guess the argument I'm building toward is that there is something to be gained by a Switch that just has a little more oomph. I understand that they're stable by and large. The games you listed, they don't need that engine under the hood. And Nintendo's largely taken that position next gen. Like, we're not competing in that way at that level. We compete artistically with all our IPs that you will buy. Mm-hmm. And I think that brings us around back to something you mentioned earlier, which, as frustrating as it is for me, who does want to Switch Pro very badly, I think at the end of the day, the logic you brought up holds, which is, why do they need to? And Nintendo often, like, they've been accused of being stingy with ports and remakes. Like, I want the Switch to envelop the entire Wii catalog, right? My Wii eventually became defunct, and I would still like that entire thing on the Nintendo eShop. But Nintendo, there's a lot of things Nintendo could do. And then when you consider the financial incentive, they absolutely don't need to, because Mario just owns this house.
Because Mario. That's really all you have to
because
say.
Mario.
Because Mario. No,
but that said, well, I do want to mention one quote just so that we actually have a factual update on this.
Right.
In an investor Q&A today, following the announcement of all these earnings that we've been going through, Bloomberg's Takashi Mochizuki reports that Nintendo president Shuntaro Furukawa was asked whether the company would announce an upgraded model of the Switch. His response, quote, "Not anytime soon." Now, I want to point out, most people are taking that as a no. I take it as a definitely yes eventually, because otherwise he would have just said no.
Right.
But there's also some translation in play. So we're still waiting for Nintendo's full transcript, which they usually release, of the earnings report call, so we can parse the exact wording of that. Those of us who are looking forward to a Switch Pro, eventually, we hope, not anytime soon. You were saying, Brian.
Yeah, no, so I was going to say, first of all, I'm with you, and I don't want to be the one arguing against the Switch Pro, even though I feel like I've fallen into that rut, because I would be the first person to buy it. I'd be there day one. As you can see, I love these things. I love Nintendo handhelds. I've been buying them my whole life. But an interesting thing about Nintendo revisions on the hardware side is that they are rarely sort of like these massive leaps in power. From the top-loading NES to the Game Boy Pocket to the various iterations of the Nintendo DS, like the DS Lite, it was like it could go online and download games for the first time. That was a big deal. The new Nintendo 3DS added like a little bit of horsepower, a second stick. There were like a handful of games that benefited from that. But for the most part, they're not really in the market of like splitting their demographics down and sort of punishing, the tens and millions of people, or 100 million people by the time maybe something like this could happen, who have already purchased their consoles and games. Furthermore, I feel like Nintendo will make a more powerful system when they feel like it will benefit the stories they want to tell. Like, I feel like right now, as long as they're able to make games like Breath of the Wild and Animal Crossing and Mario Kart and everything else, and tell their stories and sell millions of copies, then they don't feel like they're held back by technology. They're weirdly like they like to build stuff around their own tech and their own ideas. And so I do think that, like, if they are feeling like the pinch there, then they'll turn to that. And as for third-party games, I just don't think that like that's as big of a thing as we thought it would be just so far. When 20 out of 29 of their best-selling games are first-party published, it's great that there's third-party stuff on there. It's great that there's ports and indies and obviously streaming options and stuff too. Still no Netflix though, but it's not like it's dying on the vine because it can't play, the console version of Hitman. Like, it seems to be like it's getting through the year just fine.
That's low priority for your average gamer, which is why, if it happens, and now you're definitely making me realize if it happens, I'll probably get it and still think I wonder if there's going to be like an Ultra Pro model coming out 2026. But they're unique as a company in that they tend to be enamored with, unlike Sony and Microsoft, the physical toy itself.
Yeah.
And they kind of will lose interest and move on to the new toy. Whereas other companies, I think, would take any number of Nintendo console successes and have said, this is what we make now. Like Game Boy 2, Game Boy 3, Game Boy 4, up to Game Boy 9 in 2020. But no, they continually reinvent the wheel of what gaming can be. And I think that's a strength. At the same time, there are some tactics like standardized industry tactics that Sony takes, for example, where you can expect a pro model at a certain time in every generation that, I mean, I'd love. But
yeah,
I love Nintendo anyway. It's fine. It's all fine, Brian.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let us know what you think of these just insane sales that they're going through right now. I can't remember the last time we saw numbers like this. And obviously, for context, this is outselling the next gen consoles. There's a couple of things going for it. One, it's cheaper. Two, you can actually physically purchase it because you're not battling scalpers across the dark web just to get a Nintendo Switch. Although it was difficult for a while there, right? So yeah, let us know what you think. And lastly, do we need a Switch Pro right now? Yes, maybe is what I say.
Let us know.
Swaim says yes. I say sure, why not? But I don't think it's going to happen. But you let us know what you think in the comments. And for all things video games, Nintendo, sales, Animal Crossing, and all that other fun stuff, you're already in the right place. IGN.